Good afternoon, everyone. I pray that your Monday you found spaces and places of joy, maybe some rest, maybe a time to be happy, maybe a time to take a walk or work out or exercise, to paint, or simply just to chill. We've been talking about narcissists, and we talked about overt narcissists a couple days ago, and we've been talking about covert narcissists, people whose behavior is not as right in your face as an overt narcissist. The material I'm reading from lists 50 different traits, and I'm not going to go through all 50. I'm just going to pick a couple to kind of highlight. And so one of the traits of covert narcissists is, excuse me, oh Lord, they deny and dismiss others' feelings. Now, I know someone who shared with me that when she was a teenager, she had told her father, she said, "I love you." And his response was, "No, you don't." And what a horrible thing to say to a young girl. But this person does have narcissistic traits. So denies and dismisses other feelings. Another example, you may be telling the person, "I feel sad," or "I feel happy," and they ignore you. You may be crying and they don't respond. They don't even ask you what's wrong. And so that's another trait. Cultivates a public image sharply different than his or her private behavior. It's one of the things with covert narcissists. What people see in public is drastically different than how they behave in private. People who know them in the public may say, "Oh, he or she, is a great time. They're really kind. They can be really helpful. They're really considerate," but that is not the behavior that's displayed privately. And this is done sort of on purpose because they want people in their public life to see them in a particular way. But when they go home, they can kind of let it all hang out. And unfortunately, it spills into the lives of their loved ones or the people who they care about. Another trait is that they're cynical, sarcastic, and haughty. We talked about that yesterday in terms of being quite arrogant. They exploit and or attack others' vulnerability. If they know where to push your buttons, they will push your buttons. One of the things that's not on this list that I want to add is they don't fight fair. Okay, their whole goal is to win no matter what. They hate to lose, and that includes in arguments. So if you're dealing with someone who has narcissistic traits, when you're arguing, they will say things that they know are not true. They will make statements that they don't really even believe, but their focus is to win. And they're going to try to win the argument no matter what. And so they don't fight fair. And if you're dealing with someone who has narcissistic tendencies, who does not fight fair, it makes it very difficult to resolve anything. It makes it very difficult to get your point across because they're not concerned with forward progress. They're not concerned with compromise. They're not concerned with healthy dealing with challenges. They simply want to win. Another one is they may display rage and contempt in private. Again, what they do in public is drastically different than how it's manifested in private with their family or close friends. Here's a good one. People with narcissistic characteristics do not sincerely apologize. Typically, if they apologize, it sounds like this: "I'm sorry, but," and then there's some more in there. Or, "If that's how you really see me, then I guess that makes me a bad person." They don't mean that. They're actually saying it sarcastically. and with the emphasis on if that's how you see me, that makes me a bad person. They do not sincerely apologize, because to them, apologizing means you lost. You've lost the argument. And so that's not something that they're willing to do. Or the apology may be something like, and I remember hearing this apology, I'm really sorry for some of the things I did, but there's nothing I can do about it anyway. And so you're kind of thrown off. You're believing that you're hearing a real apology, which is really rare with them, but then they immediately add in, but there's nothing we can do about it, so let's just move on. So it doesn't leave space for you to process. It doesn't leave space for you to even feel affirmed. So they do not sincerely apologize. They expect you to take care of them. They expect you to look out for their needs, to look out for their feelings, to look out for their wants, but they do not extend the same thing to you. They do not extend the same thing to you. And the reason why, here's another trait, because they feel like the rules don't apply to them. They feel like they really struggle with being reciprocal behaviors. You just do this for me and I will reciprocate and do this for you. You show up for me and I will reciprocate and show up for you. They tend to think in a very one-sided way. You show up for me. Notice I didn't say, and I'll show up for you, because that's not where they're coming from. It's simply, you show up for me. And here's a big one. If you are dating and you are possibly dating a person with narcissistic tendencies, they rush to false intimacy. It may be you've met someone and they're very, very attentive in the very beginning. I mean, so attentive that you almost get swept off your feet. Now, it does not mean that everyone who sweeps you off your feet has narcissistic tendencies, but what it does mean is that narcissists, they will rush to try to establish what eventually is a false intimacy. They will pay attention to you. They're hanging on to your every word. They're meeting your every need. But once they have won, remember I said they'd hate to lose, once they have made a conquest, that attention begins to ebb away. It begins to no longer be as prevalent. And almost to the point where they start to ignore you because they've gotten you where they want you. And if you have an argument, or if they feel like you're starting to pull away from them, they will increase the good. They will not increase. They will then go back to the really paying attention to you and really focusing on your needs, simply to get you back in line as far as they're concerned, simply to give you a false sense of hope, a false sense that, okay, it's going to be better this time. But the pattern continues. They focus on you, get you where they want you, and then pull away, eventually ignore you. When you begin to pull away, that's when they do the full court press all over again. So those are just some traits. The article I'm using from this is called Identifying the Covert Narcissists in Your Life, a Checklist. I just Googled it. If you want to learn more about that, what we will be talking about tomorrow is how to take care of yourself if you have found yourself in relationship with a narcissist. And that's important, how to take care of yourself. Some people may say, well, just leave him, just leave her. But in some instances, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. You may still love them. And that's probably quite true. You love them, but you want them to respond in a different way. And so we will begin to talk about that tomorrow. Today, I invite you to do something that makes you smile on purpose, something that affirms you, something that, even if it's something that's looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, love you, Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.